Hi, I'm Dr. Sam Hazledine, and welcome to another episode of the Well Doctor series. Today, I'm thrilled to be here with Dr. Chris Jones, who's a UK-trained doctor who's been practicing medicine for almost 40 years. When I spoke to him to prepare for this, Chris's enthusiasm for life and for medicine was as much or more than most medical students I've been speaking to. So we're here today to have a conversation so Chris, with his 40 years of experience, can share what keeps him loving life and loving medicine. Welcome, Chris. It's really great to have you on the podcast.
Great. Nice to see you again, Sam.
You too. Chris was kicked off of Nauru, which is an island, for treating asylum seekers with too much care. Something that sort of seems strange to throw a doctor off an island for he was trying to transfer children off the island for medical reasons and because there was so much self-harm going on. Now, we're going to talk about this today. I think it's a really interesting and important conversation, but we're going to do that a bit later because first we're going to start talking about the core tenets of what drives Chris's purpose and his enjoyment. We're going to talk about giving back, what it means for Chris and why that's so important to him in his life and in his career. We're going to talk about how he makes his job work for him, because I think he's developed a sort of a system that really works to keep him enthusiastic about both life and medicine. And we're going to talk about well-being. So we'll start out by talking about his core tenets of what's driving the purpose and enjoyment that he still has almost 40 years into his career. So, Chris, what does service mean for you?
Well, I think I grew up in the 70s and I used to be obsessed with MASH, the program series about the Korean War with the field hospital, and became infatuated or in love with Hawkeye, Pierce, Klinger, Radar. And as I was growing up, and I wanted to be like
Houlihan. What about Houlihan?
Yeah, Hot Lips Houlihan, yep, as well. But these characters played on my mind immensely as a teenager, and as I went through school watching them, I just wanted to be like them, and so I applied for med school on this basis of people who I'd seen. Yeah, and it was true. It's something that I still watch it occasionally because it reminds me of where I came from and where I want to be.
And what was it about MASH and those doctors that really struck you?
Well, they weren't normal or weren't average. They were very passionate about what they did for everybody. They were quite rebellious in their own way. They didn't follow rules. And I'm similar. And I do care deeply about people's well-being. Doesn't matter who you are, what class you are, what color, race, creed you are, you're people. For me, those sort of characters encapsulated what I was hoping to be one day. That's also the rebellious nature. I quite like the fact that I'd be useless in the military because they'd say, Jones, do this. And the first question I'll say is, why, sir? Which wouldn't go down well. I like to, if I need to do something, I'll do it. But I need to know why I'm doing it rather than just being told to do it.
So how has that attitude, I guess, sort of influenced your career and influenced the way that you approach medicine and the way you practice?
I think being a GP is a perfect role for someone like me because you can set your own area of practice, area of scope of interest, your time that you spend doing the work and where you practice it and the variety. And you're independent as well. You don't have to follow a chain of command because you're your own doctor.
And have you found that variety has been really important in terms of keeping your career interesting?
Yeah, for sure.
It talks about some of that variety that you bring into what you do.
Oh, for sure. I took the long route to do my GP training. I did the basic internship, a year in casualty, then did a GP 3-year training program, went back to casualty for a year, did 9 months orthopedics, worked in France for a ski season as a ski doctor, came over here to Australia as a locum, and the variety enabled me to look at different parts of medicine that would interest me, and then eventually settle down.
Yeah, right. And when you say settle down, that you didn't give up on the keeping variety, did you?
No, for sure. I mean, Vicky, my wife, we've been together 30 years now, next year. And she's always supported whatever I want to do. I could have chosen a 9-to-5 clinic life, but I don't. I do split shifts, used to work weekends, do a lot of overseas aid work and rural remote medicine, and often disappear at short notice to go and do things that attract me, as it were.
And that very much segues into the giving back part of your career, because that was something that really struck me when we talk, is about how you keep your career very interesting through bringing a whole lot of variety in, but a lot of that variety is very much focused on giving back to people who have, less than most. So, you know, tell us about some of the ways that you have found you can give back, whilst practicing
Yeah.
as a doctor.
Well, I remember the first interesting thing I really did was with the tsunami in 2003.
Hmm.
So that was around Christmas, Boxing Day, and my kids were, I think, 3 and 2 then. And it's a big festive season in England. Everyone's happy, and suddenly on Boxing Day, the tsunami was wall to wall, 24-hour TV coverage. The first time we'd ever seen this.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had a weekend job in casualty, and we donated a couple of £100 to the cause and everything. But I wanted to do something, and on the Saturday that was my weekend after the tsunami, I was working there, and in the coffee room, there's just a small post-it note saying, "Wanted volunteer to leave tomorrow for Sri Lanka." I phoned my wife. She said go. I phoned my partners. They said, "Ugh." A group of us, about 12 of us paramedics, a couple of counsellors and doctors, went to Sri Lanka for 2 weeks. Quite truthfully, we didn't do much medical help at all because it was all finished. But it was my introduction to aid work, disaster work, and realizing that we in the West have got so much and people in other countries have got so little.
Mm.
And then following that, I was going to Australia for a holiday on Emirates, and in their video section, they had the Emirates Foundation, which is their
Mm.
non-for-profit organisation, and I made some inquiries about something called Friendship, which was an NGO in Bangladesh,
Mm.
and that's a hospital ship that provides care in the really rural, remote river communities near the Himalayas. And I went there, I think, 4 times on the hospital ship. And again, seeing people in such rural areas, and it was average to have 2 meals a day on the boat because that's what you do. You
Right.
don't. Why do you eat 3 meals a day, you Westerners? You don't need 3 meals, and it just opens your eyes to everything, and also the things that you can do for people.
Yeah, right. And what has that do to your perspective, I guess, on life and on the opportunities and the abundance that, we live with? And what has that done for you, like, I guess, your life, but also, your a way you approach medicine, here in Australia?
Well, yeah, it makes me very thankful for what we've got, and we
Hmm.
are we are so spoiled, especially in Australia. But as a GP in the UK, if I wanted to get some investigations done, it's so basic in the NHS. But here, within 10 kilometres, I've got 6 or 7 radiology practices that can do CTs, MRIs, ultrasounds today or tomorrow,
Mm.
path tests, most of the tests, hundreds and thousands of tests that I can do through Medicare,
Hmm.
and we are we are really spoiled with what we've got here.
Yeah, I can't remember the term, but I forget the term, you may remember it, where essentially we just keep recalibrating to whatever we've got. And so it's very easy. I forget the word, but it's
It's
very
like the more,
easy.
yeah, sorry, the
Yeah,
more you spend,
the more you earn, the more you spend, the more you have, the more,
the more you want.
access to CTs you have. We just keep raising the bar. And
Yeah,
so does doing this aid work help you to kind of keep recalibrating back to a level where you go,
yeah,
actually, I'm not going to keep raising the bar of expectation.
sure.
I'm going to I can trade that for more appreciation because I've got a contrast.
I think it grounds you. That's the thing. It
Yeah,
it
right.
makes you realise that you listen to people more. You won't
Mhm.
rely on the CT scan, the blood test, the ECG. You'll actually take a good history, and you learn about that person, because the person's symptoms aren't necessarily an illness. It might be a social thing. It might be a family, cultural, religious issues they've got.
Mm.
And I think I try and put myself in their shoes. And I always say to people when they say, "What should I expect?" I always say that I try to treat people the way that I would want to be treated or my family be treated. So
Mm.
if I send you to the public hospital for your hip replacement, I'd be happy to go there. So if it's good enough for me, it should be good enough for you, and vice versa.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. You quite regularly do Indigenous health checks, don't you?
Yeah, I'm going up to Cairns again at the end of the month. With the company I work for, they've got an altruistic arm called the Clontarf Foundation,
Right.
and that's an organisation that funds Indigenous healthcare. The idea being that education is a key to most things, most chances in life, and the more education you can get, the better equip you after the future. So all these boys are in normal schools, state schools, but we do health checks on them between 12 and 18. And you get, if I was in Townsville earlier on the year, we had 2 rheumatic heart diseases, a new type 1 diabetic, and there are all sorts of medical things. And then there's all the social issues they've got. And I was talking to a 13-year-old boy, and he lived in, I think it's Saba Island, which is the Torres Strait Islands. It's the closest one to PNG. So they can see PNG coastline from their beach. And I said, "What are you doing for Easter?" And he said, "We're going to go croc fishing." What do you mean croc fishing? So he tells me a story of how the young boys three of them they would put a line out with a piece of big meat on it near the low water line on a long rope with a buoy. The croc would come and chomp it and then disappear with the buoy in the water, and they would jump in the tinny, 3 of them, follow it until it stopped, because the croc would hopefully be a little bit tired then. 2
Yeah.
boys would pull the line up, and the third one would have a spear, and they'd
Right.
hope that the croc would turn belly up, not back up, so they could spear it in the chest. And he said
Right.
to me, "Would you come?" I said, "I'm scared of water." But it's a different existence these kids have,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just amazing. So
Yeah. And you
yeah, I
do
think
that relatively regularly, don't you?
yeah, I do about three 1 week periods a year.
Right.
I do that,
Right.
and
I
again,
mean,
and go on.
no, I was going to say, what a great way to not only give back, but to keep recalibrating, so you can keep kind of keeping it real essentially when you come back,
Yeah,
can't you?
it's a great experience, and also you get to see places that if I was to go to places that I've been to as a tourist,
Mm,
it'd either be inaccessible or too expensive.
mm.
So I've just started working with the Flying Doctors as well. So
Right. Yeah.
I'm going back to Broken Hill in October for 2 weeks,
Yeah. Right.
and get to fly out to a rural community to do GP
Wow.
work.
Wow.
I was in a place called Packsaddle, which is, I think, and a half flight from Broken Hill. And if you Google it, population 78, and the properties there, the farms. I was talking to a lady, her farm was 250,000 acres.
Just a different
And
world.
again, I live in the metropolitan area of the Gold Coast, 250,000 acres. I mean, that's just, and there were seven people lived on the farm.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah,
Unbelievable. I mean, a huge, bit part of your giving back was, and something that you made headlines for, was your experience at Nauru, wasn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah,
Nauru, there was definitely a period that there was a lot of media around it. You got a fair bit of it. I even ended up in the media for a bit there because I got very criticised by some people for supplying doctors to Nauru and to the and I did a lot of self reflection on it. And I was like, look, we're better to have doctors there. Even if we don't agree with what's going on, doctors can do good there. And
yeah.
you were a doctor doing a lot of good there, and you paid a price for it. Tell us about your experience at Nauru, what it was like, and what happened.
I did 2 stints there, in 2007 for a month, and then 2008, as senior medical officer. Now, Nauru is 3.5 hours north east of Brisbane, midway between Brisbane and Hawaii, so in the middle of nowhere.
Mm,
Circumference about 24k, 25k,
hmm
and it's a volcanic island, with beautiful water for fishing and diving. But the Nauru government, with the Australian government, decided that it would become the centre for offshore processing for um, refugees and asylum seekers.
hmm
So I was there when I went there the second time. There were about 1,100 people, got some kids in the camps. My job was to look after them medically and emotionally. But at the time that I arrived, the kids had started going on hunger strike, because some of them had been there for 5, 6 years. You're 14 years old and not going anywhere, and they were starting to self-harm, drink a bit of petrol here and there, and cut themselves. But the main problem was the hunger striking, and because they were becoming a potential risk themselves, I made a statement to my bosses that we had to do something about it, because I wouldn't allow. I'd either have to resign from the job, or we'd have to do something about it, because I couldn't allow a child to die from self-harm on my watch, because you can't.
No, not if you could do something about it.
And so at the time, the only way off the island was through a medical evacuation to the mainland, to Australia. And the refugee advocates knew that, and the adults knew that. And so one of the things that the adults would hope for would be to be evacuated for medical reasons. And so I started assessing children for fitness to remain on the island, made recommendations which was supported by psychiatrists that they should be removed. And after about 2 weeks, I got the first of the kids off with family members and got into a lot of trouble for this by my employer because this wasn't government policy. I said, well, sack me then, but it didn't. And it progressed. And in the end, towards the end of the time, I got about 50 people off the island back to Australia, which politically was a very bad thing to do. I got a lot of hassle from my employer and from the government, and eventually got thrown off the island with the threat of arrest. So, and following that, the good news was that was the end of August when I got kicked off. But by Christmas, there were no kids left in the detention centre.
Right, right.
And we've all got our own views on the right way to come to Australia, the wrong way. And I know there are push and pull factors that make people do these things. There are people smugglers. There's lots of money involved. And if you go to a refugee camp, officially, you might be waiting there for 7 years before you get resettled Canada, New Zealand, Australia. And so these were desperate people doing desperate things.
Yeah.
And they're human beings. They're not bad people. And, unfortunately, I've never been, because of the political situation, I've never been able to keep in touch with any of the families. But I'd love to know where they are, how they're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's a small world. It's the only world we've got.
Yeah.
And you got to help if you can. I think.
Yeah. Especially these days, isn't it? There's more and more of a sort of nationalistic approach to life. When you see people like that, when you spend time in places like that, you couldn't but help see that we're all the same people. We're all just trying to get by, and we're all doing the best we can.
And it's going to get more of a problem in the next few years with what's happening overseas as well. So.
Yeah.
But
You have a picture on your
go on.
a picture on your wall, don't you?
I
That
do.
means a lot to you.
I'll show you.
Go on.
Turn the camera. Can you see that now? So Yusuf was born in 2005 in the Middle East. Him and his family caught a boat from Malaysia into the Indian Ocean, got picked up 12th of July 2013, got taken to Christmas Island for processing, and they were then transferred to Nauru. And when I met him, he was 13 years old. He'd actually been on the island for 5 years, and he was now on hunger strike, trying to get away. And he made it out. He was the first kid I got off with his uncle.
Yeah.
And I think, well, he'll be about 18 or 19 now.
Yeah.
And it'd be great to see how he's doing.
Yeah.
But I think pictures are important. That was a picture painted by a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah. Amazing.
Which is very. I asked, his mum had that when I went to visit her in her detention area, and I said, "Can I have this?" And he said, "Yeah, of course you can."
Yeah, brilliant.
So it was good.
Brilliant.
Sad memories, but very good memories, very strong memories as well.
Yeah. And can just only imagine how that impacts you on a day-to-day basis. Hedonic adaptation, that was the term I was thinking of before.
Okay.
It's that, and I see with what just getting greedy, I guess, you get used to whatever, you get expectations, but,
the funny thing was I came back from Nauru and I was by myself having a coffee about 3 days after, thinking sad thoughts, and the coffee wasn't warm, wasn't hot, and I made a fuss to the waitress and said, "Oh, bloody coffee, so can you do it properly?" And she apologized, and instantly I felt about that big. I thought, what the hell?
Yeah.
You've just been dealing with people who've got nothing.
Yeah.
I just had to go and apologize. Look, I'm having a bad day. But you just have to remember that what we've got is so much more than a lot of other people.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I mean, I think with people doing this sort of work, but hearing stories like you is another great way to kind of keep recalibrating back to gratitude, essentially, isn't it? If we always calibrate back to gratitude for what we do have, as opposed to focusing on what we don't have, we're going to be better people. We're going to be better doctors. We're going to be happier. Yeah,
and it keeps you going as well. And that's the good thing about being a GP for me, is that you can structure your work around what you want to do for yourself and your family. So for myself, I'm full-time, but I work 45 hours a week, 40 weeks a year. So I get 12 weeks unpaid leave a year. I do a lot of traveling and playing, but then I can also do my other interesting things that keep me excited about medicine. Yeah.
So I guess talk about your job and well-being in the same sort of breath, because they're as a doctor, they are very related. What do you are very enthusiastic about life and your career. So what do you do both to structure your work and to keep yourself, enthusiastic and looking after yourself?
I think one of the key things for certainly being a GP is to manage your own appointment list.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I'll often make appointments for you, and I'll say I'll see you today, and then I'll arrange some investigations, and I'll say I'll see you in 2 weeks, and I make the appointment there and then,
Yes.
and I
Okay.
dictate. I can decide whether it's a long, short, brief, phone call, whatever,
Right.
and around when the time that's convenient for you and for me. Because a lot of other doctors say, make an appointment in a month's time, and then that doctor might be away or the patient might be working. So I manage my own appointments, but I also do I do split shifts. So I start work at 6:30 in the morning, Monday to Thursday. Clinic open. You've got 3 doctors working then. And I go through till 1 o'clock. And then Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I disappear for 3 hours, go to the beach or the gym, and then come back
Hmm.
for the evening session and
Hmm.
have a short day on a Tuesday and a Friday. And it's that I would find it difficult if I did a 9 to 5 or 8 till 6, whatever,
Mm.
continuous session. I'd find that hard. But doing
Mm.
the 6 hours in the morning and then having a big break before I come
Mm.
back is really useful.
Mm.
And then, as I say, apart from doing the interesting other stuff, I'd take a lot of holiday and do a lot of traveling. Vicky and I are
Mm.
going to Egypt in 4 weeks, spending a couple
Mm.
of days in Cairo, and then going
Mm.
kite surfing on the Red Sea for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Right.
And that's again completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very much you challenge the perception that medicine can dominate your life to you can make it very much work for you. I mean, it's about, I guess, being conscious and deliberate. I guess about a few things. I mean, one is about the career path you choose, because not every career path. If that flexibility and prioritizing, your health and well-being and exercise and travel is important, then there are certain career paths in medicine that you
Sure.
wouldn't probably head down.
No.
But so if you're quite conscious about that when you're picking your career path, I'm just thinking for anyone listening, it's like what do I value, and then actually how can I pick a path in medicine that works for me so I can keep doing what I love.
And it's also your skills and aptitudes as well. I would never make a good surgeon because I don't understand the internal bits of what's to the left, right, above, below in 3D. I can't get that in my head. It's like
Sure.
I couldn't draw, wouldn't be an artist. I can't understand how people draw faces because I
Yeah.
can't. So that sort of thing. I'm much more interested in people and talking and listening. So those sorts of medicine, pediatrics, psychiatry would be what I would gravitate towards if I was starting again.
Yeah.
And
Right.
also my attraction to acute medicine from MASH as well, spending time in
Mm.
casualty.
Mm. We had a lot while ago. I did one of these podcasts on purpose, and the person I was interviewing talked about that Japanese concept of ikigai, which is finding what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for.
Okay.
And you very much should live that in terms of just what you described there. It's not just what you enjoy, but you've got to be good at it. People got it, you need it, and ultimately there's got to be a demand for it.
Yeah. I like the ikigai. I'll look that up later.
Ikigai, yeah, look it up. Look it up. Or even better, listen to the podcast on purpose. But, I mean, I think that, what I think that's really interesting because we talked about purpose, I did that a long time ago. And, when we started this, I was talking about just your enthusiasm for both life and medicine. And what's very interesting is that without a purpose framework, you just described, Ikigai in its, purest essence, which I think is pretty cool. So, Chris, I mean, thank you for sharing your journey. I mean, it's a snapshot of so much more. What advice would you give to a doctor? And a lot of doctors are feeling a bit disillusioned, a bit burnt out about their lives and their careers. What advice would you give to someone listening who's just not feeling that same sense of enthusiasm for their life and career as you are?
I think sit back and relax at home and try to reflect on what's important for yourself. Where you want to see yourself in 3, 5 years' time. And if that place is somewhere different, then make the change.
Mm,
Never stay doing what you're doing because you have to, because it's expected of you.
mm,
Make the change. It's often a brave thing to do. A change brings benefit and challenges, but go with what your heart wants to do with your career.
Pretty simple, isn't it? It's so
It sounds simple, but yeah, it sounds
simple but not easy.
simple.
And it's so easy, isn't it, to get caught in a trap of, oh, I should have made that change 3 years ago. But, you know, if we put ourselves in a position and go, well, why don't I go 3 years into the future? What if I look back on, you know, what would be a good decision now? And, you know, because all we have is this moment today to do things.
Yeah, I think you can also take career breaks as well. Certainly in general practice, you could,
you
know, you may be forced into a career break because of illness, which everyone understands. But if you take 6 months or a year out to do something completely different away from medicine, that gives you time to reflect on what's important for you. And you may find that you do rekindle that passion, or you might not. But then you've developed your own pathway.
Yeah, right. Take the time off before you're forced to, essentially.
Yeah.
Chris, this has been such a great conversation, and as I said at the start, you know, your enthusiasm is palpable, and you know, I hope that anyone listening has got a taste of what it is that has allowed you to continue to grow, to continue to enjoy your life and your career, and be just as enthusiastic now, 40 years almost down the track, as you were at the start, maybe even more so. You know, it's been a lot of value to me. I hope, you know, anyone listening has found the same. So thank you, Chris. I, you know, really appreciate the conversation that we've just had.
Have a great weekend, Sam.
Thank you. You too, Chris.
Cheers, mate.